The depth piece for $0.5 million. 1 year, a cornerback who was just released by the Green Bay Packers after a disappointing stint that lasted less than a year. Nate Hobbs is coming to San Francisco, and he's coming to play in Raheem Morris defense. This is not a blockbuster move. This is not the kind of acquisition that's going to make headlines. This is not the kind of signing that transforms a secondary. But it's exactly the kind of move that championship organizations make. It's exactly the kind of depth piece that separates good teams from great ones. Let's talk about what Nate Hobbs actually is. Let's talk about his value and his limitations. 26 years old, a fifth-round pick from 2021, a guy who spent 5 seasons in the NFL, a guy who's got experience, who's got tape, who's got a track record of contributing at the professional level. He's not an all-pro. He's not going to be a Pro Bowl selection. He's not going to be the guy who transforms the secondary. But he's a solid, reliable cornerback who can contribute in meaningful ways. Pro Football Focus has him listed as one of the best run-defending corners in football since entering the league. That's significant. That's the kind of skill set that matters in a defense that's trying to be elite against the run. That's the kind of player who can help you win on the ground game. Now, let's talk about his recent history. Let's talk about why he's available. The Packers signed him to a 4-year, $48 million contract in March 2025. That was supposed to be a long-term commitment. That was supposed to be Green Bay's answer at cornerback. That was supposed to be a player who would anchor the secondary for years to come. And then it all fell apart. Hobbs appeared in 11 games and made 5 starts for Packers. He recorded 27 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 passes defensed. Those numbers are solid, but they're not spectacular. They're not the kind of production that justifies a $48 million contract. And then, to make matters worse, he got hurt. He was injured for much of the season. He wasn't available. He wasn't contributing. He wasn't helping the Packers win games. So Green Bay made the decision to cut him loose. They released him. They decided that the investment wasn't working out. They decided that they needed to move on. And now, the 49ers are picking him up for a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. That's a massive discount from the $48 million contract he signed with Green Bay. That's a player who's fallen out of favor, who's been released, who's looking to prove himself again. And that's exactly the kind of player that Raheem Morris can use. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Here's where the strategic element becomes clear. Raheem Morris is building a secondary that can compete. He's got Diamador Lenore as a starter. He's got Ephesians Prysock as a young prospect. He's exploring options at cornerback, looking at players like Kenny Moore too. And now, he's adding Nate Hobbs as a depth piece. That's not a secondary that's built on stars. That's a secondary that's built on depth, on versatility, on having multiple guys who can contribute in different ways. And Nate Hobbs fits that profile perfectly. He's a guy who can play outside. He's a guy who can play in the slot. He's a guy who can contribute on special teams. He's a guy who can be moved around depending on what the defense needs. That's the kind of flexibility that Raheem Morris values. That's the kind of player who can help him implement his defensive scheme. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. Let's talk about what the signing says about the 49ers' approach to building the secondary. The 49ers have been aggressive in addressing the secondary. They've drafted Ephesians Prysock. They've explored trading for Kenny Moore too. They've looked at trading away Renardo Green. And now they're signing Nate Hobbs. That's not a team that's satisfied with what they have. That's not a team that's content with the status quo. That's a team that's actively trying to upgrade every position, every unit, every aspect of the roster. And that's the kind of approach that builds championship teams. Because the secondary is critical. The secondary is the last line of defense. The secondary is what stands between opposing offenses and the end zone. And if your secondary is weak, if your secondary is vulnerable, then no amount of pass rush is going to save you. The 49ers understand that. The 49ers understand that they need a secondary that can compete. And they're making moves to build one. Now, here's the critical question. Here's the question that matters. Can Nate Hobbs bounce back? Can he prove that his time in Green Bay was just a blip? Can he show that he's still a capable NFL cornerback? Based on what we've seen, based on what Pro Football Focus is saying about his run defense, the answer is probably yes. Hobbs has the tools. Hobbs has the experience. Hobbs has the skill set to contribute at a meaningful level. He's not going to be a star. He's not going to transform the secondary. But he can be a solid, reliable cornerback who can help the 49ers compete. And in a league where depth matters, in a league where having multiple capable players at each position is critical, that's valuable. The 49ers are building a roster that can win a championship. They're adding pieces. They're upgrading units. They're making moves that address weaknesses and build on strengths. Nate Hobbs is one of those pieces. He's not the flashy acquisition. He's not the headline-grabbing move. But he's exactly the kind of depth piece that championship organizations need. $4.5 million for a one-year deal. That's a low-risk, high-upside move. That's the kind of signing that can pay dividends if Hobbs bounces back and contributes at a high. And if he doesn't, if he struggles, if he can't find his footing in Raheem Morris defense, then the 49ers have only committed $4.5 million. They can move on. They can find another option. But if Hobbs does bounce back, if he does contribute at a meaningful level, if he does help the 49ers build an elite secondary, then this signing could be one of the best value acquisitions of the entire offseason. That's the kind of move that separates championship organizations from everyone else. That's the kind of depth piece that can be the difference between winning a Super Bowl and falling short. And that's exactly what the 49ers are building. One piece at a time. One signing at a time. One move at a time. Until they've constructed a roster that can compete with anyone. Until they've built a team that can win a championship. Until they've created something special. Nate Hobbs is part of that puzzle. And if he can prove himself, if he can show that he's still got something left in the tank, then the 49ers will have found another gem. Because that's what championship organizations do. They find value where others see waste. They identify talent that's fallen out of favor and help them recapture their form. They build rosters through a combination of big moves and small moves, of stars and depth pieces, of calculated risks and calculated investments. And the 49ers are doing exactly that.